the loneliness of life and the alienation.
Live tonight!
You know, the concrete is becoming more and more drawn in. There's not a lot of fresh air, so to speak. You know, there's not a lot of blue skies, is there? The anger that is evoked by whatever, Westminster, the bloke next door, you know, the fact you've just bought a bag of chips and they're not very nice. Do you know what I mean?
Desperately pushing on to relieve the depression supplied to me by the NHS. It's anyone's guess.
The way it's very often written up is that you've now become the sort of voice of the working class, or the underclass, as people often call it. But you rail against that. Why?
The minute you start talking about wages, work, isolation, alienation, people tend to put the kind of working class card on you, or the class thing comes into it, you know. It annoys me because people assume that you're like that, you know. People assume that you're political and blah, 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 when all we were doing was just sounding off.
I mean, your songs are really angry and they talk about life at the very, very bottom. Yeah. You know, do they demand change? Is that what this is about?
No, it's everybody's responsibility to do that, isn't it? You know, not people's responsibility just to listen to someone else and go, oh yeah, I'll choose that, what they said.
I think you've got a responsibility to be intelligent and to think about things and to be thoughtful, compassionate, etc., etc.
Revolution, revolt BPM, revolt, and them, nah, hold on, 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 hold on.
And if you look politically at all, where we are, I mean, I don't know whether you think much about the Labour leadership and the whole Jeremy Corbyn bandwagon.
I've not looked into a lot of the stuff he's been talking about, but just reeks of compassion, you know, that's what you want. There is none of that about it all. I don't get that from anybody from Westminster, really. Probably like a little bit of an inch of it came out of Ed Miliband sometimes, but generally speaking, everyone speaks in riddles. It's just like, I
mean, there's a lot of swearing in your music. Why? Why so much?
Because that's how people speak, it's how I speak. Like, well, you know, not all the time.
Weetabix, England, shredded wheat, Kellogg's.
It really intrigued me, you know. After a while, I stopped listening to fusty old 70s guitar bands and started listening to the sound of people at last orders and the sound of people arguing outside, coming down off drugs and, you know, sobering up or getting drunk, or just the sound of people in the office at lunchtime or on the warehouse floor, you know. And that combined with the hip-hop influence. You know, it makes us laugh, it's funny. Some of it's really funny. If it makes us laugh, generally it's got to make you laugh, you know. If it don't make us laugh, it's not a very good tune.
Are you looking forward to the future? Cheery about that?
It's all really good, yeah. It is, but you're constantly reminded of reality, you know. This is a bubble, so to speak. It can be a bubble. Photo shoots here, this, that and that there, you know, playing in front of 2,000 people here. You don't have to get up anymore and go to work. So it's a bubble to me, but it's, yeah, it's enjoyable. I can provide, you know. Before we were just whatevers, weren't we?
On the fringe.
Yeah, but now, a little bit of respect.